to the battle. Put our armor on, draw our swords. Let's run to the battle. Shout loud and glorify the Lord. Let's run to the battle. Put our armor on, draw our swords. Let's run to the battle. Shout loud and glorify the Lord. Come on, run. Let's run. Let's run. Run.
When I was graduating high school, my life mission was to become an architect. So I went to the state university where I live in Kentucky, and I took this very elaborate exam, hours long, to get into the architecture school at the University of Kentucky. What was super interesting about this test is at one section in the test, they gave you a shoebox full of random stuff, like a brick of wax, some metal pipes, some matches, just a block of wood. And you open the box, and then there were two words up on the board. The words simply said, make space. And so you sat there and you looked across at these other students who were as confused as you were, and you raise your hand and you ask the proctor, is there any more instructions? And he just would shake his head and go, make space. And you had these things in the box. And so you kind of piece together eventually, I'm supposed to take what's in this box and create something architectural. Well, I only lasted one semester in the School of Architecture. It was way too difficult for me, so I went into marketing eventually. But what was fascinating was you eventually figured out that you could make space with what's in the box. It took you a minute, and you had to be creative, and that's what they were testing for, is could you take materials and make space with them? For us as dads, guess what? We have all been given a box. Our children have all been given a box, and there's stuff in their box that's unique to them, and they're supposed to work with it. Here's a verse that I think illustrates this very well. It's in the book of Ephesians, and Paul says in Ephesians 2, for by grace you have been saved through faith. And this is not your own doing. It's the gift of God, not a result of works, so no one may boast. And then here's the verse, verse 10. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. In a sense, and I know the metaphor breaks down, but in a sense, it's like God has given us a box. And in our box are some things. And those things are things he prepared in advance for us to work with and work within. So I brought some objects I want to share with you. I have 5 sons. Their ages 24 down to 8, and each of them I can represent a little of their life with a single object. My oldest son plays music. So I've lived with guitar picks all over the house for more than a decade, and a ton of guitar equipment still in our house. Guitar picks to me remind me of my son Alex, because as he developed his musical career, he realized, man, I'm actually pretty good at this, and I like it. My second oldest son, Jeremy, is really talented at drawing. He always was, and anytime I see a box that has drawing utensils in it or artwork supplies, I think of Jeremy, because he just came out kind of knowing, man, God's probably given me some artwork in my box. My son, Jonathan, I would represent, again, partly, not entirely, but with this calculator. He's always been great at math, and he's always had a head for numbers. My fourth oldest son, Timothy, I would represent with this harp, because he is one of the kindest young men you would ever meet. If he wins a soccer game, he's happy that he won, but he's sad that the other team lost. He just has a heart for people. And my youngest son, Titus, he's a bit of a fighter. He's come to us through the miracle of adoption. So did Timothy. And Titus just had to scrap and claw as a young baby. And so he's been a fighter. I look at those objects, and I don't pretend that they represent my children entirely. But what they do represent is some of the things that were in their box. when they were born. And what I want to give my kids freedom to do is I want to give them freedom to experiment with their gifts. I want to give them freedom to fail, freedom to not do it right. I want to give them freedom to move on. One of my children probably could have played high-level sports, but he just wasn't super passionate about it, so I didn't pressure him to do that. And mainly, Dad, I want to give them freedom to be different from me. Different from me. Because you know what? What's in their box is not the same stuff that's in my box. There's a good work that's been prepared for them to do, and God prepared it. And I want them to discover what that work is. My former pastor, really amazing pastor, Bob Russell, used to say, some people discover their calling like on the road to Damascus, like Paul, where they're going one direction, blinding flash of light, immediate redirection into their calling. He goes, but that's not usually how it works. Usually, we find our calling by progressively experimenting with our gifts, and God opens one door after the other. Dad, give your kids freedom to discover what's in their box and how has God wired them and what good work has He prepared for them to do, even if it's a box you don't fully understand.
Run to the battle. Put your armor on, draw your sword. Let's run to the battle.